Aaron Hernandez was one of the genuine stars in the massively popular NFL, or American football. At the height of his powers, he signed a $40 million contract and was widely believed to be one of the best players in his position. Unfortunately, his football skills weren't always the main reasons for him being in the headlines. Hernandez was convicted of murder, accused of 2 others, in 2015 was sentenced to life in prison. Just 2 years later, he was found dead, hanged in his prison cell, capping off an incredibly tumultuous and ultimately tragic short life. He was just 27 years old. It was later revealed that Hernandez had developed an extreme case of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, also known as CTE, which is a form of brain damage often experienced by athletes involved in violent, high-contact sports. People suffering from CTE commonly suffer from serious issues ranging from severe mood swings and paranoia to the inability to use logic and make sensible decisions. However, Hernandez also had a volatile upbringing, which may have also contributed to his erratic behavior and violent rampages that were to ultimately bring him undone. He grew up in Connecticut and was soon being pushed by his father to excel in sports. Although Hernandez was clearly a gifted athlete, things became very dark very early in his life. His brother would later claim that Hernandez was sexually assaulted by a male babysitter when he was just 6 years old. This allegation would certainly play a large part in what was to become a self-destructive lifestyle when he entered his late teens. The Hernandez household was far from domestic bliss, and his parents often fought. His mother and father even divorced and then remarried, while at one stage filing for bankruptcy. Hernandez's father was renowned for his violent temper. He was abusive physically and emotionally to Hernandez, as well as his brother and mother, and once assaulted Hernandez's football coach, an image that would surely have stayed firmly entrenched in his son's mind. Despite his father's abusive behavior, Hernandez looked up to him and credited him with laying the foundation for what was to become a highly promising sports career. When he was 16, Hernandez's father died, sparking a pattern of rebellious behavior that Hernandez was never able to shake. He was soon hanging out with other wayward youths, fighting, drinking, and experimenting with marijuana. At the same time, though, Hernandez continued to shine as a footballer. By the age of 19, he was already 105 kilograms and almost 190 centimeters tall, about 230 pounds and 6'2". It was during his high school years that his fierce competitiveness often resulted in heavy head knocks, some of which left him concussed or unconscious. These early series of collisions are believed by some experts to have contributed to Hernandez's later formation of debilitating brain dysfunctions. When he was signed to play football by the University of Florida, Hernandez admitted to being relieved because it was a chance to get away from the bad influences back home. Playing as a tight end, he excelled in college football, being voted the best player in the country in his position. However, even while he was wowing fans with his on-field excellence, Hernandez was showing some worrying signs off-field. Several times, Aaron tested positive for marijuana. He binge drank regularly and was occasionally involved in brawls. He also maintained contact with his shady friends from Connecticut, some whom had criminal records. This made some NFL teams reluctant to sign him, but the New England Patriots decided to roll the dice and signed him up. In his rookie season in 2010, Hernandez was thrust into superstardom. He was the youngest player in the NFL, but soon proved his worth. Despite his prowess with the football, though, Hernandez made a few friends amongst his teammates. His erratic and often bizarre behavior alienated him from most of the team and was being noted by the coaching staff. During his time at the Patriots, Hernandez recruited 2 of his old pals from nearby Connecticut to assist him. This basically meant supplying him with drugs and weapons, while diffusing situations when the troubled star would fly off into fits of rage. In early 2012, he played a major role in taking the Patriots all the way to the Super Bowl with the legendary Tom Brady. And then, Hernandez's life fell apart. In July of the same year, Hernandez was investigated by the police for double murder of 2 men in Boston. The 2 men were shot in the car by a driver in a white SUV. Police were interested in Hernandez because of the car and the fact that he was in the area on the night of the shootings. However, sloppy investigating and unreliable witnesses put a halt to further proceedings. Then, in February of 2013, Hernandez and one of his hometown friends were involved in a dispute that left the friend shot in the head. Alexander Bradley was a known drug dealer and had argued with Hernandez after a night of partying in Miami. He was found by police lying in a parking lot with a bullet wound between his eyes, still alive. Despite police efforts to place charges on Hernandez, Bradley refused to cooperate, silently vowing to exact revenge in his own time. The 2 went on to exchange over 500 threatening and hostile text messages. Things finally unraveled completely for Hernandez in the summer of 2013, when he was charged with the murder of his friend, Odin Lloyd. In June 2013, Lloyd's body was found in the parking lot of an industrial area, less than 2 kilometers, around 1 mile from Hernandez's mansion in Attleboro, Massachusetts. Lloyd had been shot 6 times with a semi-automatic Glock pistol. At the time of his death, Lloyd was going out with the sister of Hernandez's fiancée and was a semi-professional football player. He and Hernandez often hung out, hitting the nightclubs and sharing marijuana. When Lloyd's body was discovered on the morning of June 17th, police soon focused their attention on Hernandez. The two were known friends, and Hernandez had a well-documented history of violence and irrational behavior. Investigators went to work and soon uncovered what was to become damning evidence against Hernandez. First of all were the incriminating text messages. Hernandez invited Lloyd to meet up on the evening of June 16th. He also texted 2 of his dodgy friends from his hometown in Connecticut to come up to New England immediately. Hernandez's home surveillance cameras then showed Hernandez and his buddies leaving his house in a rented Nissan. They picked up Lloyd, whose sister saw the 4 leave in the Nissan. Security cameras then showed the same Nissan pulling up in the industrial area where Lloyd's body was found. As if this wasn't bad enough, police also found used bullet shells in the hired Nissan. Shells from a Glock 45 to be precise. Photos taken from Hernandez's own security camera showed the 3 men returning to the house early on the morning of June 17th. One of the men appeared to be holding a gun. Hernandez was arrested at his home on June 26th on murder and weapon charges. Investigators were positive it was Hernandez who had done the shooting, as he obviously had some kind of beef with Lloyd. Exactly what was the motive remains unclear. Lloyd was in a club earlier that night, apparently talking to people that Hernandez didn't like. It could well have been that simple. Another theory is that Hernandez was concerned that Lloyd might blackmail him over his alleged bisexuality. Whatever the case, Hernandez was arrested and denied bail. Almost immediately after his arrest, the New England Patriots tore up his contract, along with a plethora of sponsors. Hernandez went to prison where he awaited trial. In 2015, prosecutors produced their overwhelming evidence and Hernandez was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life without parole. During the trial, Hernandez was also indicted for the drive-by double murders in Boston in 2012. Due to inconclusive evidence and a lack of credible eyewitnesses, he was acquitted for the homicides in 2017, learning the verdict from prison. But it was in prison that Hernandez came completely undone. Even though he was cheered by fellow inmates for beating the double murder charges, Hernandez was gradually coming to pieces. He was already prone to heavy drug use, and while in jail he developed an addiction for synthetic cannabis, a substance notorious for causing paranoia and mental distress. In the final days before his suicide, Hernandez had made phone calls to friends and family members. He had seemed upbeat and positive, but was also heavily using synthetic cannabis. The final grisly end came on the morning of April 19th, 2017. Hernandez was found by a prison guard hanging by his bedsheets in his cell. He was pronounced dead an hour later. Since his death, there have been countless theories as to what led him to self-destruct at such a devastating rate. Some have suggested that Hernandez was torn by his sexual identity. His brother Jonathan has claimed that Hernandez confessed to him about his bisexuality, while it's been widely reported that Hernandez was seeing an old male high school friend intimately. This repression, whilst being in the public eye, could certainly help to explain why Hernandez was often unstable. It was even rumored that Odin Lloyd knew of his secrets and Hernandez was keen to keep him quiet. What is clear is that he was almost certainly suffering from the nasty side effects of CTE brain trauma from repeated head knocks. His continual heavy drug use since high school must have also formed a dangerous combination with his brain issues, particularly as he got older. There's also the issue of how much his traumatic upbringing contributed to his unbalanced personality and rash decision-making. It's most likely that all of these factors played their part in producing a most unbalanced man. Ultimately, his life away from the football field overshadowed his undeniable ability on it. Aaron Hernandez's story will tragically be known as the man behind the rapid rise and fall of one of America's most gifted and troubled athletes.